The morning sky turned from black to purple to orange as Lily Martinez drove her Forest Service truck up the winding mountain road. The coffee in her travel mug had gone cold, but she drank it anyway. 6 years as a forest ranger in the Cascade, mountains had taught her to take what comfort she could get. Lily was 32, with sun-browned skin and dark hair always tied back in a practical ponytail. She wore the standard green uniform, sturdy boots, and a hat that had seen better days. On her belt sat her radio, multi-tool, and service pistol, the last one rarely used but always there. For 3 weeks now, something strange had been happening in her section of the forest. At first it was just feelings. The sense of being watched, odd shadows moving between trees. Then came actual evidence. Wildlife cameras showing strange lights at night, motion sensors going off with nothing visible, and most concerning, animals avoiding certain areas completely. Probably just poachers, her boss had said when she reported it, or college kids with drones. But Lily knew better. She had grown up in these mountains. She understood their rhythms and moods. Something was different now. Something was wrong. She parked at the trailhead and checked her backpack one last time. Water, first aid kit, trail mix, extra socks, flare gun, and a tablet with GPS mapping. The Forest Service was short-staffed as usual, so despite regulations, saying rangers should work in pairs in remote areas, she went alone. The morning air felt crisp and clean in her lungs as she hiked. Birds called overhead and squirrels darted between trees. Everything seemed normal until she reached Miller Creek, about 4 miles in. There, the forest went quiet. No birds sang, no insects buzzed, just the sound of the creek bubbling over, rocks and her own breathing. "Hello?" she called, not expecting an answer. None came. Lily checked her tablet. 3 motion sensors had triggered in this area last night, forming a rough line heading east. She decided to follow their path. The first sensor showed nothing unusual around it. The second was the same. But as she approached the location of the third, she noticed something odd on the ground. Disturbed earth and strange marks that didn't match any animal tracks she knew. Next to them was a small puddle of liquid that caught the sunlight strangely, shimmering with colors that shifted as she moved. Lily crouched down for a closer look but didn't touch it. The fluid seemed to glow, faintly from within. "What in the world?" she whispered. She took out her phone and snapped several pictures, then used a clean sample container from her pack to carefully collect some of the liquid. Whatever this was, the lab back at headquarters might be able to identify it. Following the strange tracks, Lily moved deeper into the forest. The trail led her to a small clearing where she had set up one of her animal traps the week before. The trap was designed to safely catch and hold deer or small bears so they could be tagged and released. As she approached, she saw that something had triggered it. But what she found caught in the metal jaws of the trap wasn't any animal she had ever seen. The creature was about 5 feet tall with a slender build. Its skin was pale blue with faint patterns that seemed to shift and change like clouds. It had 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head with features that were almost human-like but not quite right. The eyes were larger, almond-shaped, and completely black. No visible ears but a small nose and mouth. It wore something like clothing, a close-fitting silver-gray material that seemed to flow around its body. The trap had closed around one of its ankles, and the creature was crouched low, huddled against the base of a tree. When Lily stepped into the clearing, its head snapped up, those large black eyes focusing instantly on her. Lily froze. Her hand moved slowly toward her pistol, but she didn't draw it. The creature watched her movements carefully. It didn't seem aggressive, just afraid. Then something impossible happened. A voice spoke inside Lily's head, soft but clear. "Please. Help. Not harm." Lily nearly stumbled backward in shock. She looked around wildly, but there was no one else in the clearing. The voice had definitely come from inside her mind. Did you just speak to me?" she asked aloud, feeling foolish even as she said it. The creature tilted its head slightly, and again the voice came. "Yes. Speak mind to mind. Please help. Trapped." One slender blue hand gestured toward the metal trap. Lily took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. This couldn't be happening, but it was. Either she was having the most vivid hallucination of her life, or she was standing 20 feet away from an actual alien who could somehow talk directly into her thoughts. Moving slowly, hands raised to show she meant no harm, Lily approached. "I'm not going to hurt you, I want to help," she said. "Gratitude," came the reply. Then, with more urgency, "Others coming. Danger." Lily knelt beside the trap. Up close, the alien looked even more incredible. Its skin had a subtle shimmer to it, and those patterns that moved beneath the surface reminded Lily of the northern lights she'd seen once in Alaska. The creature smelled faintly of ozone, like the air after a lightning strike. "This might hurt. A bit," Lily warned as she positioned her hands on the trap's release mechanism. "Ready?" The alien nodded, a surprisingly human gesture. With a practiced motion, Lily released the trap. The metal jaws sprang open, and the alien immediately pulled its injured limb free. The wound wasn't bleeding as a human's would. Instead, more of that strange iridescent fluid seeped from the injury. "Thank you," the voice in her head said. "Kind human." "You're welcome," Lily replied, still struggling to believe what was happening. "What? Who are you? Where did you come from?" The alien's large eyes blinked slowly. "I am..." What followed wasn't words, but a complex sound-feeling image that Lily's mind couldn't quite grasp. "You may call me Sela," the voice continued. "Come from stars, far world." "You're really not from Earth?" Lily whispered. It wasn't a question. Yes. Not Earth. Scout team. Study humans. Sela tried to stand but wobbled, clearly still hurt from the trap. Lily reached out to steady the alien, surprised at how light she felt. "Why are you studying us? Are you planning to, I don't know, invade or something?" A feeling that might have been amusement flickered through the mental connection. No invasion. Learn only. But others. The alien's mental voice grew darker. "Others want harm. They follow me. Hunt me." "Others? You mean more aliens? They're coming here?" Lily looked around nervously, half expecting to see more blue-skinned figures emerging from the trees. "Yes, bad ones. I escaped to warn humans. Got caught in trap." Sela gestured at her injured ankle. "Cannot run now. Cannot hide thoughts when they search." Lily made a quick decision. "I can help you. My truck isn't far. We can go somewhere safe." "Dangerous for you," Sela warned. "Help me. They hunt you too." "Let me worry about that," Lily said more confidently than she felt. "Can you walk if I help you?" Together they made slow progress through the forest. Lily supported the alien's weight as they moved, constantly scanning their surroundings for any sign of these others Sela had mentioned. The alien was surprisingly light, and her skin felt cool to the touch. As they walked, Sela explained more through her telepathic communication. She was part of a species called the Very, advanced beings who had been observing Earth for generations. Her people were divided. Some, like her, wanted only to watch and learn. Others saw humans as potential weapons, resources to be used in conflicts far beyond Earth's knowledge. "Why would anyone see humans as weapons?" Lily asked. "Humans special," came Sela's reply. "Strong bodies, strong will, quick to learn, quick to fight, protect others with no reason." The alien glanced at Lily. "Like you help me. No reason, just do." As they neared the trailhead where Lily had parked, a distant humming sound filled the air. Sela froze, her large eyes widening. "They come," she whispered in Lily's mind. Search began. "Who exactly is they?" Lily asked, helping Sela move faster toward the truck. "Dominion scouts? Find me, find you, both die." The alien's mental voice was flat, matter of fact. "No witnesses allowed." Lily felt a chill run down her spine. What had she gotten herself into? But looking at the injured alien leaning against her, she knew she couldn't have done anything differently. "Then we better not get caught," she said. helping Sela into the passenger seat of her truck. I know someone who can help us. An old friend who knows how to stay off the grid. As Lily started the engine, she realized that her entire world had changed in the space of an hour. Nothing would ever be the same. She was harboring an alien fugitive, apparently being hunted by hostile forces from another world, and somehow, inexplicably, it felt like exactly what she was meant to do. Frank Ortiz lived alone in a cabin 20 miles from the nearest town. The small wooden house sat on 40 acres of land at the edge of a pine forest, with mountains rising in the distance. Frank had built most of it himself after leaving the military 8 years ago. He liked the quiet, the space, and most of all, the privacy. At 41, Frank had the lean, tough look of someone who stayed active. His black hair was starting to show gray at the temples, and deep lines marked the corners of his eyes. He had been a combat engineer in the Army, serving 3 tours overseas before deciding he'd had enough of war. It was nearly midnight when headlights appeared on his long dirt driveway. Frank was sitting on his porch, a rifle across his knees. He had been watching strange lights move across the sky for the past hour, lights that didn't match any aircraft he knew. Now, a vehicle was approaching his home. Frank stood, moving into the shadows beside his cabin. Through his scope, he could make out Lily's Forest Service truck bouncing along the rough road. He lowered the rifle but didn't put it away. Lily never came this late without calling first. The truck stopped in front of the cabin and Lily stepped out. She looked around nervously before opening the passenger door and helping someone out. No, not someone. Something. Even in the dim light, Frank could tell the figure wasn't human. "Lily?" he called, stepping forward. "What's going on?" Lily's head snapped up. "Frank, thank God. I need your help. We need to get inside now." Frank approached slowly, his eyes fixed on the strange blue-skinned creature leaning heavily against Lily. "Who's your friend?" "It's a long story," Lily said, her voice tight with stress. "Can we come in? Please? I think we were followed." Without another word, Frank moved to the creature's other side, helping support its weight. Up close, he could see it was wounded, a makeshift bandage wrapped around one ankle. Its large black eyes looked at him with what seemed like caution or fear. Once inside, Frank secured all the doors and windows while Lily helped the alien sit on his couch. The creature looked around with obvious curiosity, studying everything in the small living room. "All right," Frank said, placing his rifle on a rack but keeping his pistol holstered at his hip. "Start talking." Lily took a deep breath and told him everything, finding the alien in her trap, the telepathic communication, the warning about others hunting her. As she spoke, Frank's expression grew increasingly grim. "So you're telling me we have hostile aliens on Earth, looking for this one? And you brought her straight to my door?" His voice was low, controlled. "I didn't know where else to go," Lily said. "They have technology that can track her, but you're the most off-grid person I know. No internet, no cell service, generators instead of power lines. If anyone can hide her, it's you." Frank rubbed his face with one hand. "Jesus, Lily." "The government can't know about her yet," Lily insisted. "Not until we understand what's happening. She's running from something, Frank." The alien, Sela, Lily had called her, suddenly sat forward. Both humans turned to look at her. "May speak?" The voice appeared in Frank's mind, causing him to jerk back in surprise. "Yeah," he said after a moment. "You can speak." "Thank you for sanctuary," Sela's mental voice continued. "Know this dangerous for you. We'll explain more." Over the next hour, with Lily helping translate when the concepts became too complex, Sela told them about her people, the Vari. They were an ancient species that had achieved space travel thousands of years ago, but like humans, they were divided in their beliefs and goals. "Two factions among my people," Sela explained. "Harmony and Dominion. Harmony believes in peace, learning, growing together with other species. Dominion believes in control, using others for benefit." "Let me guess," Frank said. "You're Harmony and the ones hunting you are Dominion." "Yes." Sela's mental voice carried sadness. Dominion watches Earth many years. See humans fight. See humans survive. See humans win against great odds. They think we'd make good soldiers, Lily translated. They want to use us in their wars. Frank snorted. We've got enough wars of our own, thanks. What Dominion plans is wrong, Sela continued. No species should control another. Came to warn humans to help. And they want to stop you, Frank concluded. Yes. To them, I am traitor. You helping me makes you enemies too. Frank stood and walked to the window, peering out at the night sky. How many are after you? What kind of weapons do they have? Small scout team, 5, maybe 6, but more will come if they call. Sela's large eyes blinked slowly. Weapons. Hard to explain. Energy weapons. Mind control devices. Can make humans help them without knowing. Great, Frank muttered. Mind-controlled human puppets and energy weapons. And all I've got is a hunting rifle and some shotguns. No, Sela said firmly. You have more. Knowledge of land, strong will, and me. Frank turned, raising an eyebrow. You? No offense, but you don't look like much of a fighter. Not fighter, Sela agreed. Scientist. But no Dominion technology, no weaknesses. Lily, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. We can't just hide forever. We need a plan. Frank nodded. First things first. You both need rest. I'll take first watch. Tomorrow we'll figure out our next move. That night, Lily slept in Frank's spare bedroom while Sela rested on the couch. Frank sat by the window, watching the stars and thinking about how quickly his quiet life had been turned upside down. When morning came, Frank made a simple breakfast of eggs and toast. He was surprised to find that Sela could eat human food, though she examined everything carefully before trying it. Your bodies and ours not so different, she explained. Basic needs same across many species. As they ate, Frank laid out his ideas. My property has some advantages. I've built hidden shelters, supply caches, old habits from my military days. If we need to move fast or hide, we have options. They'll have scanners, Sela warned. Can find life signs, energy sources. Can they be blocked? Lily asked. Sela considered this. Some materials block scans, dense metals, certain rocks. Like the old copper mine on the north side of the property, Frank said thoughtfully. We could use that. Over the next 3 days, they prepared as best they could. Frank showed both Lily and Sela the hidden routes across his land, the emergency supplies and the old mine entrance that could serve as a last resort. Sela's ankle healed with surprising speed, and she grew stronger each day. During this time, they learned more about each other. Frank told stories of his time in the military, careful to focus on the good memories, the friendships, the sense of purpose. Lily shared her love of the forest, how she had grown up hiking these mountains with her father, and Sela told them about the stars, the world she had visited, and the beauty of her home planet with its 3 moons and purple skies. Frank found himself warming to the alien. There was something about her, a quiet dignity, a deep curiosity, about humans that wasn't condescending but genuinely interested. She asked questions about everything from cooking to music to why humans kept pets. Your species strange, she commented one evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. Capable of great violence, but also great kindness. You fight each other, yet protect each other fiercely. That's just being human, Frank said simply. On the 4th day, as Frank was teaching Sela how to chop firewood, she was fascinated by primitive tools. Lily called them urgently from inside the pie cabin. Look at this, she said, pointing to Frank's old but reliable satellite TV. The news was showing unusual weather patterns across the region, strange atmospheric disturbances that scientists couldn't explain. Not weather, Sela said, her mental voice tight with fear. Ships, Dominion ships hiding in clouds. Frank felt a chill run through him. How long do we have? Not long. Hours, maybe. They narrowing search? As if confirming her words, Frank's dogs began barking outside, the sound sharp and alarmed. Through the window they could see a black helicopter flying low over the forest, miles away but heading in their direction. Not military, Frank said, recognizing the shape. Private. Could be news because of the weather story, but... Or could be people working for the Dominion, Lily finished. Need to prepare, Sela said firmly. We'll show you how to recognize Dominion agents, how to avoid mind control. Frank nodded grimly. And I'll show you both how to use every weapon I've got. As the helicopter grew closer, the three of them moved with quiet efficiency, gathering supplies and preparing for what was coming. Frank had faced enemies before, but never anything like this. Still, the familiar focus of preparing for battle settled over him, bringing with it a strange calm. Whatever was coming, they would face it together, two humans and an alien girl, unlikely allies against forces from beyond the stars. The helicopter circled Frank's property twice before moving on. They watched from the cabin windows, barely breathing, until it disappeared over the tree line. They're searching, not attacking, Frank said, lowering his binoculars. That's good. Means they haven't pinpointed us yet. Lily nodded, her face tight with worry. But they're close, too close. Sela stood between them, her blue skin looking paler than usual. Need to prepare now, she said into their minds. Dominion never gives. Up hunt. Frank's cabin, once a peaceful retreat, now felt like the center of a shrinking circle of danger. The isolation that had been comforting was now a double-edged sword. No neighbors meant no witnesses, no help if things went bad. Outside, the day was turning to evening. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, moving faster than natural weather. Patterns. Sela pointed to them with a slender blue finger. Not normal clouds. Dominion ships hiding, creating cover for ground teams. Frank turned away from the window and went to a locked cabinet in the corner of the living room. He opened it to reveal several guns, boxes of ammunition, and other equipment. I was hoping I'd never need to use these again, he said quietly, taking out a hunting rifle and checking it. Lily looked at the weapons with unease. She had basic firearms training as a forest ranger, but she had never shot at a person. Are guns even going to work against them? Against their ships and advanced tech? No, Sela answered. But Dominion uses human helpers first. Guns will work on them. Frank handed Lily a pistol. Only if absolutely necessary, he told her firmly. Remember your training. Breathe, aim, squeeze. What about Sela? Lily asked. She needs a way to defend herself too. Sela shook her head. My people, not fighters, but can help other ways. She touched the strange device on her wrist. This has tools. Can disrupt Dominion technology, short range only. Frank nodded. Then we use what we have. I know this land better than anyone. We'll use that advantage. They spent the next hour preparing. Frank had built his cabin with security in mind, reinforced doors, shutters for the windows, even a hidden trapdoor, leading to a small cellar. Now he showed Lily and Sela how to barricade the doors and where the best defensive positions were. This place isn't a fortress, he admitted, but it's better than being out in the open. As night fell, Frank set up motion sensors around the property, simple hunting tools usually used to track deer. He connected them to a tablet so they could see if anything approached. Now we wait, he said, settling into a chair with his rifle. Across his lap, Lily sat across from him, the pistol heavy in her hands. What if they just burn this place from the air with their ships? Dominion wants me alive, Sela explained. Need information for my mind. Need to know what I told humans. So they'll come for us on the ground, Frank concluded. That's something, at least. They waited in tense silence as darkness wrapped around the cabin. The only sounds were the tick of Frank's old clock and the occasional call of a night bird outside. Hours passed with no alarm from the motion sensors. Just when they started to think maybe they had more time, all the sensors triggered at once. They're coming from all sides, Frank said, checking the tablet. Fast? How many? Lily asked, standing and moving to her position by one of the windows. Too many to count, and they're moving in a way that's wrong. Too coordinated. Sela's mental voice was grim. Mind-controlled. Humans with Dominion implants. Not their fault. They cannot resist. Frank's expression hardened. Well, I'm not about to kill innocent people being used as puppets. We need another plan. The mine, Lily suggested quickly. You said it blocks their scanners, right? Yes, Sela confirmed. Could hide there. Frank shook his head. And be trapped? No way. We need to... His words cut off as bright headlights appeared on the road leading to the cabin. 3 black SUVs moved slowly toward them, their tires crunching on the gravel. We're out of time, Frank said. Back door. Now. They moved quickly, through the cabin and out the rear entrance. The night air was cold against their faces as they crouched low and ran for the tree line. Behind them, they could hear car doors opening and closing, voices calling out commands. Safely hidden among the trees, they watched as men in tactical gear surrounded the cabin. They moved with military precision, weapons raised. There was something strange about them, their movements too perfect, their faces blank and expressionless. They're all being controlled, Lily whispered. Like robots. Sela nodded. Dominion tech in their heads. Cannot help what they do. Frank pointed to a path leading deeper into the woods. This way. I have a hunting blind about half a mile from here. We can use it to plan our next move. They moved as quietly as possible through the dark forest. Frank led, knowing every root and hole in the ground even in the darkness. Lily followed, helping Sela, who was still not fully recovered from her injury. Behind them, shouts echoed as the controlled humans discovered the empty cabin. Flashlight beams cut through the trees as the search expanded. Faster, Frank urged in a low voice. They'll fan out through the woods soon. They reached the hunting blind, a small wooden platform built in the branches of a large oak tree. It wasn't much, just big enough for 3 people to sit with a tarp overhead for shelter from rain. We can't stay here forever, Lily said once. They were settled. They'll find us eventually. Frank nodded grimly. I know, but we need a plan that doesn't involve hurting those people. They're victims too. Sela had been quiet, but now she touched her wrist device thoughtfully. Maybe can help them. Device has pulse function, designed to reset very technology, might disrupt implants. Would that hurt them? Lily asked with concern. Not hurt, but like sleep for short time, then wake confused. Frank considered this. So we could temporarily knock them out? That gives us a chance to escape at least. How close do you need to be? Lily asked. Very close. Few feet only. Frank rubbed his chin, thinking, that's going to be tough. We'd have to get right in the middle of them. For a few minutes, they sat in silence, watching the flashlights moving through the woods. The search pattern was expanding, getting closer to their position. I have an idea, Frank said finally, but you're not going to like it. He explained quickly. They would use him as bait. He would allow himself to be captured. Then when they brought him back to their vehicles, Sela could activate her device from close range. That's too dangerous. Lily protested immediately. What if her device doesn't work on human implants? What if they just shoot you? They want information, Frank reminded her. They'll want to question me about Sela. Sela looked at him with her large black eyes. Why risk yourself for me? Only known me few days. Frank's expression was determined, because that's what humans do. We protect our friends. Before they could argue further, a flashlight beam passed just below their hiding place. One of the searchers was directly underneath them, moving slowly, scanning the forest floor. Frank motioned for them to be absolutely still. The man below stopped, standing motionless for a long moment as if listening. Then he looked up. The flashlight beam hit them directly, momentarily blinding them. Here, the man called out, his voice oddly flat. Targets located. Frank reacted instantly. He dropped from the platform, landing on the man and knocking him unconscious with a swift blow. But it was too late. More flashlights were converging on their position. Run, Frank shouted to Lily and Sela. Head for the mine, I'll lead them away. Lily hesitated, but Sela pulled her arm. Must go now. Help him more by surviving. As Lily and Sela disappeared into the darkness, Frank fired his rifle into the air. Hey, over here, he shouted. Then, started running in the opposite direction. The controlled humans turned as one and began pursuing him. Frank used every trick he knew, changing direction, doubling back, moving through the thickest underbrush. His years in the military and knowledge of the land kept him just ahead of his pursuers. But he knew he couldn't run forever. Their numbers were too great, their coordination too perfect. Eventually, they would corner him. As he paused behind a large tree, catching his breath, Frank realized something. The pursuers weren't shooting at him. They could have easily fired into the darkness, but their weapons remained silent. They really do want us alive, he muttered to himself. That changed everything. If they weren't trying to kill him, maybe. His original plan could work after all. He could let them capture him, get taken back to their base of operations, and hope that Lily and Sela could find a way to use that alien device. It was a desperate plan, but right now, it seemed like their only chance. Lily and Sela ran through the dark forest, the sound of pursuit fading behind them as Frank led the hunters away. Lily's heart pounded with fear, both for herself and for the friend she had left behind. We can't just leave him, she said, stopping, to catch her breath against a tree. Not leaving, Sela replied, her telepathic voice firm. Following his plan. Get to mine. Hide. Then help. Lily nodded reluctantly. Frank knew what he was doing. The best way to help him now was to stay free and find a way to use Sela's technology. The old copper mine was about a mile north of Frank's cabin. They moved as quickly as possible in the darkness, guided by Lily's flashlight and Sela's surprisingly good night vision. The alien seemed to navigate the forest almost as well as Frank, her large eyes taking in more light than human ones. After 20 minutes of careful travel, they reached the mine entrance, an old wooden structure reinforced with metal beams, built into the side of a small hill. The door was hidden under years of growth, just as Frank had left it. This used to be a working mine, decades ago, Lily explained as she pulled away vines to reveal the door. Frank showed it to me once, said the copper deposits interfere with radio signals and electronics. Yes, Sela agreed. Certain metals block Dominion scanners. Good hiding place. They pushed open the door, which creaked loudly in the quiet night. Inside, the air was cool and damp, smelling of earth and metal. Lily's flashlight revealed an old mining tunnel stretching deeper into the hillside, wooden support beams lining the walls and ceiling. Frank keeps some emergency supplies. In here, Lily said, leading the way. Water, food, batteries, even an old radio. They followed the main tunnel about 50 feet in, where it opened into a larger chamber. Wooden crates were stacked against one wall, covered with tarps. Lily pulled back the coverings to reveal the supplies Frank had mentioned, along with some basic tools and a small gas lantern. We should be safe here for a while, Lily said, lighting the lantern. Its warm glow filled the chamber, casting long shadows on the rough walls. The question is, what do we do next? Sela sat on one of the crates, her blue skin looking almost purple in the lantern light. She held up her wrist device. Working on plan. Device needs adjustments to affect human implants. Can you do that? Lily asked hopefully. Trying. Different. Biology. Different frequency needed. Sela's long fingers moved over the device, making small adjustments. Need time. Lily nodded and began to organize their supplies. She found water bottles, protein bars, a first aid kit, and extra ammunition for her pistol. There was also a small hand-crank radio which she tried to tune, hoping for news, but the signal couldn't penetrate the surrounding rock. Hours passed as Sela worked on her device, and Lily kept watch near the mine entrance. The night seemed endless, filled with worry for Frank and fear of what might come next. Occasionally they heard distant sounds from outside, vehicles moving, voices calling to each other. The search continued, but they hadn't been found yet. Just before dawn, Sela suddenly stood up. Done, she announced. Device modified. Should disrupt implants now. Should? Lily questioned. Cannot be certain until try, Sela admitted. Never used on humans before. Lily sighed. Well, it's better than nothing. Now we need to find where they've taken Frank. As if in answer to her words, they heard a new sound from outside, the heavy beat of helicopter rotors, much closer than before. Lily crept to the mine entrance and peered out cautiously. In the gray light of early morning, she could see a black helicopter landing in a clearing about a quarter-mile away. Something's happening, she whispered to Sela, who had joined her, at the entrance. They watched as several men in tactical gear exited the helicopter. Then, to their horror, they saw Frank being dragged from the aircraft. His hands were bound behind him, and though he was walking on his own, his movements were stiff and unnatural. They put implant in him, Sela said, her mental voice tight, with concern. Controlling him now. Oh God, Lily whispered. We have to help him. Yes, but carefully. Need to get close enough to use device. They observed as Frank and his captors moved toward what appeared to be a temporary base camp set up in the clearing. Several tents had been erected, with equipment and vehicles arranged around them. In the center was a larger tent that seemed to be the command post. There, Sela pointed. Dominion controllers will be in main tent, the ones giving orders to humans. Will we see them? Your people? Maybe. Maybe just human helpers with communication devices. As they watched, something strange happened in the sky above the camp. The air seemed to shimmer and distort. And then, like a curtain being pulled aside, a spacecraft appeared. It wasn't large, about the size of a small airplane, but its sleek, metallic hull and strange design were clearly not of Earth origin. Dominion scout ship, Sela confirmed, was hidden by cloaking technology. The ship hovered silently over the camp. A hatch opened in its underside, and a platform descended slowly to the ground. On it stood two figures that were clearly not human. They were similar to Sela in basic shape, but taller and broader, with darker blue skin that was almost purple. They wore what appeared to be armor, fitted plates of a reflective material that covered their torsos and limbs. Dominion officers, Sela whispered. Very dangerous. Have weapons that can kill at distance. They watched as Frank was brought before the alien officers. One of them held up a device similar to Sela's wrist unit but larger. It glowed with a pulsing red light. Mind scanner, Sela explained. Will extract all knowledge from his brain. Painful, sometimes kills. Lily's hand tightened on her pistol. We have to stop them, now. Yes, but need plan. Cannot just run in shooting. They quickly discussed their options. The camp was too well guarded for a direct approach. There were at least a dozen mind-controlled humans patrolling the perimeter, plus the two alien officers who were clearly armed with advanced weapons. What about a distraction? Lily suggested. Something to draw their attention while we get close enough to use your device. Sela considered this. Could work, but what distraction big enough? Lily's eyes fell on a small metal box among Frank's supplies. It contained emergency flares, bright, long-burning signals designed to be seen for miles. I have an idea, she said. Meanwhile, in the camp, Frank stood rigidly before the alien officers. His mind felt foggy, like moving through thick mud. He could see and hear everything, but it was as if he was watching from far away. His body wouldn't obey his commands. Instead, it responded to the alien device one of the officers was pointing at him. The taller of the two officers spoke. The sound strange and clicking. A human in a suit standing nearby translated. Where is the traitor Sela? Where have you hidden her? Frank's mouth moved without his permission. The old mine, north of my cabin. The human female took her there. Inside, Frank was screaming at himself to stop talking, to resist, but the words kept coming, betraying Lily and Sela. Show us on the map. The translated demand came. Frank's hand reached out to a digital map displayed on a tablet. His finger pointed to the location of the mine. The officer made a sound that might have been satisfaction. Orders were given, and several of the controlled humans began preparing to move out. Just then, a series of bright red flares burst into life at different points around the forest surrounding the camp. The sudden, intense light drew everyone's attention. The officers barked commands, and most of the guards moved to investigate the new threat. In the confusion, no one noticed two figures approaching from the south side of the camp, staying low and moving quickly between tents. Lily and Sela had used the flares as planned, setting them up at timed intervals to create the impression of multiple attackers. Now they had only minutes before the ruse was discovered. They reached the main tent just as the officers were preparing to begin their scan of Frank's mind. The human translator saw them first, pointing and shouting a warning. One of the alien officers turned, raising a weapon that hummed with energy. Sela acted instantly. She pressed a sequence on her wrist device and held it up. A wave of invisible energy pulsed outward. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Every human in the camp, including Frank and the translator, suddenly went rigid, then collapsed to the ground unconscious. The alien officers staggered but remained standing, their armor apparently shielding them from the worst effects of the pulse. The nearest officer recovered quickly and aimed his weapon at Sela, but before he could fire, a shot rang out. Lily had her pistol raised, smoke curling from the barrel. The bullet struck the officer's weapon, knocking it from his hand. The second officer drew his weapon, but Sela moved with surprising speed for someone who had been injured, tackling him to the ground. They struggled briefly before Sela managed to press her device against his armor. A different pulse activated, and the officer went limp. The first officer, now disarmed, backed away. He reached for something on his belt, a communication device. Lily fired again, this time hitting the alien's arm. A strange glowing fluid that must have been blood spattered on the ground. Wounded and outnumbered, the officer made a decision. He pressed a control on his armor and in a flash of light, teleported back to the hovering ship above. Moments later, the ship's engines flared to life, and it shot upward into the sky, disappearing among the clouds.